Hi everyone, Carol here at Oak House Journals. Hello, hello. Following on from the creativity boxes, I was asked by a couple of my subscribers if I would show how I decorated the packages that I put into the box. So I'm going to give it a go. So please bear with me. I've picked out 2 or 3 of the designs and I'm going to try and show you how I created those packages. So the first one, and the one I really like, is actually the easiest of all, and it was decorating a absolutely plain black envelope. Now any envelope will do, you don't need a black envelope, but for the ones that I created, obviously you get the greater impact on black, and black was what I wanted. Any old black envelope that you can get your hands on will do. The reason I used black was because I had some in my stash that I wanted to use. So any black envelope, any size will work for this. And all I did was I decorated it up with a piece of vellum, some thread and a wax seal. Now I used these sheets of vellum because, woo, that one's gone. They're very lightweight. I got these from AliExpress and I chose them for decorating my envelopes because they have that lovely fern image on. And this is the packaging. Let me show you. Please don't ask me which shop on AliExpress I got them from, but that was what was written on them. And I think they refer to them as washi stickers, or, but they aren't stickers, they're actually vellum. But let me say, you do not need to go and buy these at all. You could take a piece of vellum, you could stamp it with your favourite stamp in Versamark and heat emboss it using an embossing gun. Or you can do this option, which is computer generate it. These, you'll maybe recognise these from the Japanese Oriental books, accordion fold books I made. It's further down in my playlist, but I computer generated some numbers on some fairly heavy vellum. I think this is 150 gram vellum. And this would be absolutely perfect. You don't have to use numbers. You could use anything you want. So you could actually computer generate an image of a plant or a fern or something like that. So that's just a suggestion. I used these because I had these in my stash. And literally all you do, this couldn't be easier. All you do is, if you're using glue, I would recommend this art glitter glue, is just put a little bit of glue behind your vellum in one place, like so. I'm just popping this to one side out of the way. Don't worry about that. That will be hidden. And what I didn't do is I didn't seal the back of the envelopes. I left them open, and you'll see why in a moment. Now the next thing I did was I just got some bog standard sewing cotton thread. This just happens to be Gutermann thread, and what I tend to do when I do this decoration on my envelopes is, when I'm sewing on my sewing machine and I get to the last few strands on my spool, is I just put the spool to one side, because this is ideal for a project like this. So holding on to one side of my thread, I've got a bit of a length here, I'm just holding on to one side of my thread, and all you do is you wrap it round your envelope like so, 2 or 3, 4 times, as many times as you want. You don't have to be too neat, and you don't have to be bothered about fanning it out, because you can actually do that after you've tied your knot. Okay, so that's probably about enough times for me to wrap my thread round. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to grab my scissors and I'm just going to help my thread, one of my loose ends, go underneath, because what I'm going to try and do, and this is where it gets difficult on camera, so what I'm going to try and do is tie a knot, and that just does not want to go underneath. This is why I don't do tutorials, everybody, because things always start going drastically wrong when I try doing it on camera. There we go, like so. So I'm just going to wrap it under again. Normally I'd have my tweezers, but having lifted everything else out, I haven't lifted out my tweezers. So what I'm going to do is try and do a knot with my threads, and I'm going to try and do that knot fairly close to where I put that glue there behind the vellum. Now, you don't have to use glue if you don't want to. You could use a glue dot. But either way it will be hidden, so don't worry about it. And you can leave a tail on your threads if you want to leave a tail. Again, that's part of the design and part of how you choose to decorate your envelope. So as I said, you have time now to just fan out your threads as you want. And I just like to just fan them out a little bit when I can get at them. There we go. Sorry, I'm off screen there. And what I try and do, as I said before, is try and get the knot round about where that circle is. Now what I do now is I would get out my waxes and my wax seals, and I would create a wax seal on there. Now what I tend to do is, as you can see here, I've got quite a few wax seals tucked away. I have several favourites that I like to use, and the wax, I don't use a wax gun. I like to use a melting spoon over a tea light, and I also have some clear granules here. But what I tend to find that I like to use most are these wax sticks. I get mine through Etsy, and I will put the link down below to the shop where I get them from. I buy them like this. They are around about £1.20 a stick. And what I tend to do is I just chop them up with my scissors to create little pellets like that. Now if you're buying the pellets, that's great, and as you can see I've got some tucked away at the back here that are star-shaped pellets. All of these are fine, it's just whatever is your own personal preference. I like using the sticks because I like the range of colours, and I know roughly how many of these little snippets, and again, as I said, I just use these scissors and just snip off a few little chunks and put these in my spoon and melt them down. And what I tend to do is I tend to create quite a few seals by, let me just pop that out of the way, quite a few seals at a time. And I have a sheet of baking paper and I create my seals by waxing, putting some wax in the spoon over the tea light, make my globule of wax, and then put my seal in it. The reason I like doing it that way in advance of actually doing it on my project is for the simple reason that I'm not particularly good at it, and I will get a lot of what I term as rejects. I mean, that for me would be a reject. It's got bubbles in it. It's not very consistent. I would be happy with that one, and I would go with that one. And these are some other ones that I've done, and I've just put some paper on the back. That's one of my own. So I tend to create 2 or 3 and pop them away to one side until I'm ready to use them. They peel off really well off the wax paper, and then I just store them in a bag here until I'm ready to use them. And what I'm doing as I'm talking to you is I'm rummaging around trying to find one or two that I'm quite happy with that I would want to use on this project. And true to form, I haven't got one. Let's see, where are we? Would I use that one? Not really. Sometimes I pop them to one side because I will remelt them, which is quite good. I'm going to go with this one. And once they've peeled off, once I've peeled them off my baking paper and stored them in here, they're ready for me to use. And I just use double-sided tape, and all I do is I just coat the back of my wax seal with the double-sided tape, just 2 or 3 strips. I've obviously tried to use this one previously because there is some paper on the back of it. Okay, so as you can see, I've run over the edges, so all I'm going to do is just trim those off. So roughly I have got double-sided tape all over the back of my wax seal, and then I just peel off. This red tape goes everywhere, doesn't it? Peel off the backing like so. I've got red tape all over my hands here, and then I would just centre it on my project like so, and that will stick. Just gently hold it into place, and that will stick on my project, and it still gives me the opportunity to fan out my threads and arrange them as I want on my project like so. And it's as easy as that. And I haven't even got that label straight glued on there. Oh, so there we go. And that's why you don't need to seal the back of your envelope, so that whoever gets it can just chop the threads and get inside the envelope and still use the decoration on the front if they want to. But obviously you can seal it up if that is your preference. So that's a really easy one for you to see how I've decorated. So let's pop that to one side. The next one is a pocket. So one of the ways that I decorated in the creativity box was to create a pocket, and I've kind of gone with, again, using some envelopes. This is a lovely quick project to do. So for this one, I'm going to just use this as an example and this envelope, and basically all you're doing is creating a pocket using your envelope. So seal up your envelope like so. And that doesn't want to seal up. Is that going to seal? There we go. And decide how big you want it to be. So I'm just going to lift out my pencil. I thought I was organised, but obviously I wasn't. I'm just going to put I want it to roughly be about there. And don't waste this. You can use this in all sorts of projects, so keep that to one side. And basically you have a little pouch, quick and easy for you to decorate. Now this is fairly big because I have an idea of putting an eyelet in one side, so I wanted a bit of leeway on this one. And And then you just find something to wrap around it, to decorate it with. Now, when I did the original one in the creativity box, I just used some rice paper. Now, I've just got this piece of wallpaper that is on my desk from an earlier project. And all I'm going to do is just tear it to make it a little bit more interesting. Very roughly, as you can see. I'm quite happy with this edge. Maybe just trim that a little bit, a bit too rough there. And I'm just going to wrap it round. So you could use here, as I said, this is just a piece of wallpaper. You could use a piece of a digi-kit, a printable digi-kit. You could use a piece of designer cardstock. You could use a piece of handmade paper. Anything, just something to wrap around your envelope. And it doesn't have to go all the way round. I quite like the fact that it doesn't. Then what I've done is I've grabbed, this is just a piece of a notepad, and I've just folded that on there. Now the reason I've done that is because I like the colours. The colours were going, so that was working for me. And as I say, this is just, it's just a post-it notepad that I've got handy, and I've just used that, as I say. Then what I thought I might do would be to put a piece of vellum on there. I love using vellum, and I love the fact that I can get the torn edge on vellum. Now this is quite a generous piece to use on here, so I'm kind of thinking of layering it. So what I'm going to do, when I can find my tearing ruler, it was here a moment ago. Oh, here it is. Okay, I've got a torn edge on one side, which I can use. I'm just going to get rid of this edge down the side here. Like so. And I'm just going to eyeball there where I want it, that piece to be. And I'm just going to fold that over like so. And what I'm going to do is lift that up and just put that down. And all I've done is I'm holding it in place with my fingers to see if I like how it looks, and I do. So what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on my wallpaper to hold that. I'm not going to glue my vellum, I'm going to rely on my twine to hold it in place. Even though this is a post-it note and has got a sticky edge, I'm not going to rely on that. I'm just going to pop a bit of glue on there like so. I'm liking how that looks. And this is the side here, because my card is over to one side where I think I might put my eyelet. So I still feel like I want something on the top there. It's not quite working for me. So when I was roughly pulling my pieces together, I lifted out this pad of little labels that I've got, and I think I quite like that on there, like so. So I'm picking up that green a little bit. So yeah, that's working for me. And I think I'm going to drop it down a fraction. So I've got all sort of staggered layers, because I'm thinking of kind of putting my eyelet here and have my threads running across. So I tend to just play with these things to see how I like the look of it, and I tend to just go with that, and I'm kind of liking that. It's sort of working for me. Just trying to work out where my threads are going to be. Yeah, I think I will just drop it down a little bit. So do my usual trick of just holding it in place and popping a bit of glue on. A little bit underneath, not a lot. Sorry, just refreshing my camera there. Now what I'm going to do is, I've lifted out some lovely, very fine, like Avril Art twine, and I'm going to use this to tie around my envelope. So this is still open at the back. I'm not bothered about that because my twine is going to hold that in place. If you were, then you could put a smidgen of glue down the edge. In fact, let's do that. Just put a tiny little bit down. Vellum's not really very forgiving, is it, when you mess with glue? But I always find if I put a little bit down and then just run my finger over it before I set the vellum in place, that usually works for me. So I know where my card is inside the pocket, so I am just going to punch my violet hole. I'm going for a bronzy colour because my eyelet on my card up here is a bronzy colour. So that one, I'm just going to set it with a washer in the back. Like so. And I still have room for my tag to be centered. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to thread through some of this yarn several times through my eyelet and around my card, or around my pocket rather. Another way that I could have done this would have been to put two eyelets here and tie my twine down the side there. There's lots of options for how you use this Avril yarn, art yarn. I absolutely love using it, and when I was creating those creativity boxes, I went out and I bought a shed load of it because I knew that I wanted to use it to decorate my my envelopes and my pockets. And just trying to getting myself into a right old mess here. I'm sure there was an easy way to do this. There we go. I'm just going to tie it round 3 times. Like so. Snip my ends off. Tying it in a knot first, and then I'm going to tie a bow, but I may decide that I don't like it tied as a bow and just want it left dangling. Sometimes I like the look one way and sometimes I like the look another. It just depends. There we go. Is it gonna? This is why I don't usually do this sort of thing on camera because I am such a slow crafter. I sit and faff with things for absolutely ages. So I'm kind of liking the look of that. I don't like the bow that I've done. I don't like the look of that, so I will just let that hang down and just snip it. Where are we? Just snip it like so. And if I find that my twine doesn't want to do what I want it to do, then I'll just put a dab of glue behind it and hold it in place for a minute or two until it's settled down and sits how I want it to sit. Using my trusty bone folder for everything. Whoops! It certainly didn't want to settle there, did it? Let's try that again. As soon as I lifted the the bone folder away, it shot up in the air. Typical. Okay, I'm just going to hold that in place for a minute or two. But you get the idea. I mean, if you like the look of a bow there, then you can obviously have a bow there. I just prefer a few ends. Is that going to stick? Yeah, it's going to stick eventually. But we haven't got all night to wait whilst it does stick. But you know what I mean. It will eventually stick into place. And you could actually... That is being so temperamental today. I can't believe that. That is really naughty. Okay. Well, what we could always do is we could always leave it as it is and thread those through, back through the eyelet and get rid of them all together. Oh, dear. So... that is crazy. Anyway, actually what we could do is tie some more of the twine through, because that would be quite nice to add some more of this twine coming down, which might be quite nice. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to be very wasteful of my Avril twine and use that to tie some more on there. It's tricky stuff to try and tie, actually. As you can see, I'm struggling a little bit. I'll probably have exactly the same problem with this one that I've just tied, but yep, there we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck this one underneath and hope that that will hold it down. So there we go, everybody. Oh, completely embarrassed on camera. There we go. So that's kind of another sort of decoration that you could do, just a simple pouch, and depending on what you use, I mean, obviously that will alter the end result. So lots of options with that one. So I'm going to throw this one to one side now. Super hyper embarrassed on that front. So the other dear me, the other one that I tried to do was this little one. I use these, what I call coin envelopes, all the time. I don't use a template to make them. They're super easy. And I've just made this one out of wallpaper. I love how versatile they are, and I'll show you in a second, just very quickly, how I make one, if you don't know. But this is one that I've done recently. This is going into another project. So again, another quick way to decorate these. Again, this was just a notepad I've got, and it's got days of the months on, and it's a to-do list basically, and all I've done to create this image is I've taken it, folded it round. It's the same principle as the other pocket. I've folded it round. I've used a label like that, and I'm using this one as an example. I've just put the label on. I wouldn't obviously, well, you might use green, but I probably wouldn't. As you saw for this one, I've just used a plain label, and then I've just used a botanical floral sticker, and I've stuck it on. I did put a dab of glue behind here the sticker holds this label on, and then on the back, again, all I've done is glue it, and I didn't glue this down. I've just used the label to hold it in place. So that's exactly the same principle as I've done for this one, except I've just done it on one of these little coin envelopes. So as I said before, it depends what you wrap round to how they look. Another one that I did very similar to that was, let's show you, was this one. This is just a glassine envelope, and I took a piece of paper that was dry embossed, and actually this is the paper that I used. I just roughly tore it, folded it over the glassine envelope so it goes over to the other side, and then I laid on top some pink and some white lace. Because there were fussy cut butterflies, not fussy cut, die cut butterflies inside the glassine bag, I used some of those on the top, laid them up with half pearls, and because the butterflies inside the bag were pink, that's why I used the pink and white lace on the top. Super easy. There is a little bit of French text on there just to give it a little bit more interest. So it's basically the same principle, just layering over the top. This one here is another example of how you can decorate up these coin envelopes, and I'll show you how I've done that one. This is a little dangle that I've just put on it, so I'll just show you how I've done that one, and you can see just how easy it is. Now the coin envelopes, as I said, they are super easy to do. Cut yourself a rectangle of paper. Now decide how wide you want your coin envelope to be. Double it and add ½ an inch. That's my rule of thumb when I make these. So for example, if I wanted to make a coin envelope to fit that pad, I know that that pad is, where are we, 6 centimeters. So my piece of paper would be at least, well, it would be 12 centimeters front and back, obviously. So it'd be 12 centimeters, and I would probably add on another 2 centimeters. If you're working in inches, that is, say 2 1/4, say 2.5 inches, because you want a bit of movement inside your pocket. So I would have a piece of paper that is at least 5 inches with perhaps another ½ inch overlap. The reason being is that you want your paper to overlap at the back, so that's where your ½ inch overlap comes, and if I pop it on there you can probably see. So all you need to do is take your piece of paper and fold it in about an inch, inch and a half. Then measure 3 inches, or the width that you want your pocket to be. I know this is 3 inches. And then fold it over. And you should have either 2 centimeters if you're working in centimeters, or half an inch overlap. Then all I do is I fold it up at the bottom about 1 centimeter, and I tend to go by eye. I'm not bothered if that is slightly more or slightly less than 1 centimeter. All I want to do is make sure that that is straight. So now I have something that will fold in like that and fold in like that. And now what I do is I cut away this portion here. If I hold that up to the camera and point with my bowl folder, I cut along that fold line there and that fold line there, and then on this side along that fold line and that fold line. And effectively what it does, by cutting those portions away, it leaves me with a little flap like that. And that, when I fold my sides in, becomes my bottom flap like that. Really, really easy. And as I say, you can get any width of pocket you want just by measuring whatever you want to put in the pocket and giving yourself some wiggle room. So to get the top, you do exactly the same. So at the bottom, I folded it in roughly 1 centimetre. So at the top, say for example, I wanted it to mimic this one. All I do is I fold it at the top so that I have a flap of about 1 inch. And again, it doesn't matter. All you need to do is make sure that that fold line is straight. And then again, you're doing exactly the same thing as you did for the bottom. You're cutting along that line and there to remove all of that bit. And you're cutting along that line and along there to get rid of that bit. And that will give you your top flap. And then all I do, very simple, fold the side piece in and glue it. Oh, let me tell you, if you find, this is just a quick tip I found, when you have cut these portions away and you folded in your sides, if you find that they're not level, because maybe you haven't cut in a straight line, all you need to do is hold them in place, fold, reverse your fold, so fold your flap back, turn it round, and then just, you will see where you haven't got these pieces quite level, you will see them sticking up above that fold line. And all you need to do is use that fold line and the edge to trim it off to get a straight line. Very, very easy. So you don't have to open it up and try making sure those lines are, cuts are absolutely perfect. And you do exactly the same with this edge here if you haven't managed to get those absolutely perfect and lined up. So you reverse your fold, as I said, flip it round and use that edge to trim it off straight. Be careful though, because you do not want to end up cutting that piece. You're just resting your scissors against that fold to trim off these pieces. So once you've made your coin pocket or coin envelope, then all you need to do is glue it. So where the overlap is, you just glue it there and you glue your bottom up, and then this is your flap. Now there's loads of ways that you can secure your flaps. You could glue it, that's the easiest way, or you could use a piece of one of these bits that you've cut off. You could use a scrap from that to cut out a couple of circles. This is only wallpaper, so it's quite lightweight stuff. So I would use at least 2 pieces, if not 3 pieces of my wallpaper glued together and cut out a circle. And then you could secure it to the top flap. I mean, you know all of this, everybody. You could secure it to your top flap using a brad, in which case cut out another circle and cover up the prongs that have gone through the cover here. And then you could tie some thread around it and wrap it around your envelope. Or another way is you could cut out your circles, and instead of securing them with a brad to your flap, you could actually secure them with an eyelet and then use string round it to secure your envelope. Or you can do this option where you put a piece of paper on there to secure it. Or you could do this option, which is a mixture of both, where I've folded paper over the top and I've also put an eyelet in the top, like so, and then I've just put a dangle on top. So I'm going to show you how I've done that one. Very, very quick, very easy. So we've created our pockets, and I've got one here that I've got glued up, and it's got goodies inside. And I haven't got any of the right colour. For this one, I used handmade paper and this gorgeous blue handmade paper that was gifted to me, and I haven't got any of that in the right shade of green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try doing it, and this could be famous last words, I'm going to try doing it with a sample, paint sample card, because I quite like how they go together colour wise. And I've got some mulberry paper here that I'm going to cut. Well, I'm not going to cut, I'm going to rip. And all I'm doing is I'm ripping it to get a nice edge, rough edge to my piece of paper. So I think it just gives more interest, but obviously you could go with a straight edge if you wanted, and you could also use a tearing ruler if you wanted to, but I'm not going to on this occasion. I'm just going to roughly tear a strip, and this strip is about 1 inch wide. I'm not really paying much attention to the size of my strip. I'm just kind of going with what feels comfy at the moment. And I'm going to put it, you could put it straight down on your pocket if you wanted to. I'm just going to put mine at roughly a jaunty angle because I quite like that. And I'm actually going to put my card behind. So I want a piece that is going to be bigger than this piece. So bear with me as I try and just gently tear this. And I need it to be wider. So just roughly tearing down the other side. Whoops, I should be I'm turning the wrong way. So I've got white edge on that, which isn't quite what I wanted. So I'm just going to see if I can, I'm just going to just tear a little bit more off this, because I'm not going to have it sticking out behind the white on both sides. I'm going to kind of stagger it a little bit, I think. And as you can see, I've not done it straight on that side on purpose, but that is a bit too much of an angle for me there. Where are we? There we go. So I'm quite liking that. And as I said, that's going to go at a jaunty angle on my pocket, like so. I'm just using the top to bend it over like that. I'm not bothered about how long it is at the back for the moment. Now that looks okay to me. It doesn't look anything particularly good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some vellum, and I've got a fly in the room here, so there we go. Love using vellum, as I said before. I'm just going to gauge, yeah, I'm liking that, so I'm going to pop that, just trying to again gauge where I need my fold to be. And so my vellum I've kind of used to frame my two pieces of cardstock, sorry, my green and my white. So I'm quite liking that. And now all I would do is I would get my glue and I would just, my glue has dried up a little bit. Because I didn't put my pin back in, did I? Normally I have it in my mouth, so I was trying to be good whilst I was doing the video and not put it in my mouth. So that's a little bit of glue on the green just to hold it in place, and a soupçon up there as well just to hold that in place. And I'm going to do the same on the back, because for the simple reason that this is all of this arrangement is quite thick. When I did the last one, I was using the handmade paper rather than cardstock, and that thick vellum, I used a thinner vellum. So this is all quite thick, so I think it might need a little bit of a helping hand. And of course everything has moved. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to punch my eyelet, get my glue out of the way, and I'm going to punch a hole for my eyelet just off centre at the top here, going through all my layers. And I'm going to put a gunmetal coloured eyelet in, which I love that colour rather than the antique bronze. So there we have it. Now it still needs a bit more decoration, so I'm using some of my Avril twine, I think, and I've got some little silver letters here that I've had in my stash for ages, and I've got a little dangle, and you may well have seen the Instagram pictures of those little dangles that I made, and I've got a coilless safety pin here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread through the dangle and one of the letters onto the coilless safety pin, and then I am going to thread it through my paper. Now I'm hoping that this is going to go through as easily as it did with the last handmade paper. I haven't tried it with mulberry paper, so fingers crossed it should go through. Just trying to do that. Sorry if I'm off camera here, everybody. Just bear with me a second whilst I try and get that through. Yep, we're through. And that just goes like so. Doesn't want to sit quite nicely for some reason. Just need to play with it a little bit. There we go, what's happening here? Got itself a little bit tangled. Let me just take that out and try it again. There we go, come on. Come on, babe. Okay, they don't want to sit nicely for some reason. That's better. Okay, let's try again. There we go, and we're through. Okay, and then I've got some Avril twine here, which I thought would go quite nicely. And again, I'm just going to use my tweezers and just pop it through the eyelet. And just tie a knot. And I love this Avril twine, this one. I will put the link down below to the Etsy shop where I buy my Avril twine from. But this, she has such an amazing selection. It's a mother and daughter in Hong Kong, and yes, it does take a little while to come through from Hong Kong, but I have to say it is well worth the wait, because the twines, the Avril twines that they have, are absolutely gorgeous. So just decorated like so, and an easy one again to do. I need to faff and fiddle with that letter a little bit better. It's not sitting nicely, so it might need to go on a jump ring. And any little offcuts like that, save them, use them for your laminated tags. And again, there's a video in my playlist down below. So that's another example of how you can decorate these envelopes. I've got 2 or 3, as you can see, all to one side here, and there's that one. So very quickly and finally, I have got another package here that I want to decorate. So I'm just going to pop these off to one side for you. This is some pieces that I want to send to a friend of mine, and what I've done is I have just wrapped them in some of this Japanese paper. This came in a stocking from Santa. It is Japanese, the equivalent of mulberry paper, and it's like a tissue paper. It's absolutely gorgeous to use. You can see it's semi transparent, but it is lovely. So you could do the same thing. All I've done is I folded round. This is what I'm sending. I have just folded, I've got some red tape stuck on me there. I have just folded it round my pieces that I want to pop in the post. And so I've just created a little fold like that. I've got a piece of broderie anglais. You could use normal tissue paper. Again, you could use designer paper, printer paper, anything, handmade paper. You don't have to use broderie anglais. You could use a piece of lace. I have just cut a piece to go round the parcel and to overlap by about 1 inch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pin this and tie some twine round. So what I want to do is, I think I want to put a couple of pieces like that on here. And this is just a trim of, a scrap trim of some sari silk. And this was a piece of sari chiffon. And I'm just going to pop those on there like so. This is one of the coilless safety pins, and all I've done is I've threaded a couple of beads onto it that I've just used some jewellery findings to make a couple of dangles, really simple, and then I've just put them on this coilless safety pin. And all I'm going to do with this is, if I can, because I haven't tried this, I'm just going to layer it up on top of my sari silk, chiffon silk, my sari silk, and pin it to the little piece of broderie anglais that I have overlapped on my parcel. So a little bit tricky, so bear with me, and we'll see how this goes. So through my broderie anglais, the trouble I have found with these coilless safety pins is that they're not particularly sharp, not like a normal safety pin, and I do struggle sometimes getting them to go through fabric, but if you persevere, you can get it to work. And I've gone through that. So I've just pinned that to hold it securely in place, like so, with my dangles hanging down. And then I thought I'd revert back to this Avril twine. I do love it. I think it's just finishes off finishes off everything so nicely. So I just thought a couple of loops on here would be a nice way to finish this off. So I'm taking it around the other side. Just holding it in place. Actually looks lovely against the broderie anglais, I have to say. It really does. It looks very, very delicate and pretty, which is what I want. Just going to flip this over because it's not lying flat on the other side, and I want it on my lace, on my broderie anglais lace. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and tie it through my coilless safety pin. It's all gone very quiet here, isn't it? There we go, you're going to come through. Just going to get my tweezers for this because it's tricky stuff. Thank you for being so patient with me, everybody. I bet you're tearing your hair out thinking, oh, for goodness sake, get on with this. But there we go. I've just got it through there. So I've just looped it through my cordless safety pin, my charms, and I'm just going to tie it without getting too much tension. Sorry, I'm off camera. And there we have it. I'm just going to faff with this now a little bit and just arrange it nicely. So get my charm back down, and I've got my threads. I'm just going to snip off, and once again they're deciding they're going to do whatever they want to do and not play nicely and sit nicely. So there we go. That is all I would do really. I hold that up to the camera. So you've got your, sorry, the light's going now, just your little piece of sari silk and chiffon, and that's how it looks on the back, just on top of the broderie anglais. So I'm sorry, that's not really the best of tutorials for you, everybody. This Avril twine is a little bit tricky because it's so fine to actually tie, but I think it will sit quite nicely, and I'm just going to trim that a little bit more and get rid of those pieces. So there we have it. Thank you so much, everybody, for bearing with me as I tried to show you just how I faff and create some of the packaging that I like to use in my my Happy Mail, and also in the creativity boxes. Thank you so much for bearing with me, as I say, and I hope you all had a lovely weekend and are ready for a hectic week at work. and please try and find some time for crafting. Keeps us all sane, doesn't it? Take care, everybody. Bye bye now.